So speaking of deceased, I want to unbox this too. This is Deceased debut album, Luck of the Corpse. For YouTube's reaction of this Luck of the Corpse record, I did the first 2 songs. They're instrumental, Fading Survival, and then The Cemetery's Full. Is that an instrumental? No, that was Acid Witch. So yeah, it was Fading Survival and then The Cemetery's Full. That was for YouTube. Now for Patreon, I did do the entire freaking album. So you should definitely go to my Patreon. It's imakaiya. It's $5 to watch that. I'm just plugging it just in case. But yeah, Look at the Corpse. And upon my first listen, I was a little on the fence. Like, I really liked the album, but I was still trying to figure out my thoughts on it. I've spent a lot more time with this album now, and I really, really like it. I don't like it as much as their third album. So I liked Fearless Undead Machines more, just a little bit more than I liked Luck of the Corpse. But Luck of the Corpse is still a very, very solid debut album from Deceased. Again, if you're not familiar with Deceased, they're like a death thrash heavy metal crossover band. They're from Virginia. They're dope. Shout out to you, King Valley. You're awesome. You're awesome. This was really, really great. And I found out that this is the cover from Black Sabbath, which I remember this from the Satanic Panic video. It's got the Black Sabbath lady on it, so it's super, like, creepy. Here's the back. Overall, going into this record, I was expecting kind of this, like, old school death metal sound, and that's what I got with this. Like, honestly, I don't really hear too much. I mean, a little bit of, like, old school thrash with some of the, like, rhythm vibes, but I mostly just hear like old school death, like a little bit of that like swampy twang that you get with Morbid Angel, some sounds of like Deicide Self-Titled, and that type of thing. So it's still a very, very good album, and I would honestly say there's not any flops on this record, in my honest opinion. I can't find the opening to this record. I genuinely really, really like this album. The one thing that is tedious for me is their song. It is Psychedelic Warriors. That is the only song where, and I mentioned this in my full album reaction, where the kick drum specifically is extremely high in the mix, and I've mentioned this before, but when the kick drum is too high in the mix, I can hear the like tink 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 of the actual like drum hitting the I guess the kick, the pedal hitting the kick, and it's super distracting for me. So it's very, very high in the mix for that song Psychedelic Warriors. So it's very distracting, but otherwise it's not, it's fine. Otherwise it's fine. And I did mention this again in my album review where, that was really difficult for me to listening to the actual album digitally with headphones on. But I listened to this record both like through just my phone speakers, Bluetooth speakers, as well as on my actual like good speakers in my living room, and you really can't tell. Psychedelic Warriors is the only song where you can tell on all of those different methods. So it was the pedal for the kick drum on the actual like skin of the drum that you can hear. It's just really high in the mix, and it's distracting for me personally. Very personal thing. Otherwise, this whole album is really, really good. It really grew on me. I think my favorite songs are definitely the first like 4, especially The Cemetery's Full. I really love Decrepit Coma, and I really, really loved Birth by Radiation. I was kind of saying in my album reaction that I wanted a somewhat of a ballad from them, you know, and you kind of get that with Birth by Radiation, just a little bit. Look at that solid black CD on one side, and then of course you've got the Sabbath lady on the front. This is just so cool. But Birth by Radiation, you've got about 2 minutes of like this just beautiful, like, just it's beautiful. You don't expect it. It's so like, I don't know, it's a ballad. It's an instrumental ballad, and it's an instrumental piece for about 2 minutes, and then it goes into kind of this like death thrashy sound. Look how cool that is. And it's really cool. It's a very great way to kind of switch up the record. You don't expect it, especially as like the second to last track on the album. And then the other thing I really enjoyed in the last song is Gut Wrench. So about halfway through it, they've got this beefy AF solo. Hi, Hugo. How are you? Hi, Weird Spins. They've got this amazing solo in Gut Wrench, and then they end with this kind of it's just the rhythm section. They kind of let the album end with this instrumental, just drums and chuggy guitars, but the way they do it is just it's very nicely paced, and I love it so much. I love the ending of the record, and it's a very solid record. So this is the booklet. Watch Black Sabbath. I'm gonna watch it. It's on Tubi for free right now. What is your Wi-Fi setup? Hi Quentin, how are you? I have a speaker set up. They're a really solid band. So like I said, I prefer their concept record, Fearless Undead Machines, just a little bit more than this debut, but it's still really good. And definitely one of the most surprising bands that I've discovered so far this year. It was definitely a lot more like old school death metal vibes, more than it was like heavy metal and thrash. Like I really didn't hear much heavy metal in it. It was definitely more death metal with a little bit of thrash in terms of like the rhythm.